Thanks very much, Chris. And thanks to the organizers for inviting me to come and speak today. Yeah, a little bit more background on myself, I suppose, would be a good place to start. So, yeah, I started my life in academic pathology, working within an NHS setting, developing novel technologies, and then stepped out of that role into a full-time academic environment, building a range of technologies, running a very busy, productive research laboratory within Queen's University Belfast. As part of that effort, we spun out some technology from the university as an SME called PathXL. Grew that company through 2 rounds of venture capital funding, selling our software, digital pathology software globally. And in 2016, Philips acquired the company. And at that point, I stepped out of my academic role and moved across to Philips full-time to head up the research activities in pathology AI and to run the R&D hub out of Belfast. So I suppose I've sat at all sides of the table over the course of my career. And I suppose what I want to focus on today is the role that Philips have played in really trying to build this NHS academic industry collaboration and partnership as part of the Innovate UK call in pathology and radiology AI. So I think probably everyone will know a little bit about digital pathology already. I don't want to dwell on this. But clearly this is a technology that's having a radical impact on pathology as a discipline, moving away from glass slides and microscopes, being able to scan those glass slides at high resolution and allow the pathologist to be able to view those images digitally on screen with all of the benefits that brings in terms of workflow and other improvements to the process of pathology. Philips, there are other manufacturers out there, but Philips have developed a high-resolution scanner that allows us to take large numbers of slides, scan them very rapidly in a routine diagnostic laboratory, manage that workflow that allows pathologists to use digital pathology more effectively within a diagnostic setting. We've shown that just introducing digital pathology within that workflow can introduce anywhere between 15% and 20% efficiencies in any given laboratory. Sorry, there's one other piece here that the animations are coming up in the wrong order, but yeah, this is the Philips UFS system. We were the first to get FDA clearance for primary diagnostics in the US. We have clearance in multiple other countries as well. But this was a big step forward in terms of the industry and really opening up the opportunity to use digital pathology for routine diagnostics in the US and other countries. But clearly digitization is an enabler for AI. That's the starting point. You need to have the images digitized before you can even think about applying AI. But even the efficiencies that digital pathology, even on its own without AI bring, are significant. And that's obviously important in a country like the UK, where we're showing significant shortages in terms of pathology workforce. Royal College of Pathologists did a review a number of months back now, but only 5% of pathology departments in the UK have sufficient pathologists to cope with the workload. 48% of labs send their tissue samples elsewhere for review. So it's a massive problem and it's not getting smaller. And clearly digitization, including AI, is going to have a significant impact. These animations are just not working for me today, but the opportunity now exists to ensure that having captured the images in a digital way, we can now build computational pathology and AI and layer that on top of the digital workflow. Clearly, computational pathology and AI introduces a number of clear benefits around objectivity and reproducibility and precision. So taking those subjective interpretations that pathologists make on slides every day and the errors that result from that, and really improving the interpretation of the images, extracting that valuable quantitative data from these very complex images and use that in ways that improve decision making. But obviously there is the opportunity to use computational pathology and AI for automation, to automate certain steps in the diagnostic process that will reduce the workload, that will increase efficiencies, and improve our ability to deliver diagnostic pathology more effectively. Quantitation allows you to measure what's seeable, so it allows you to take what pathologists use today, the visual clues that they use routinely, and convert those into a numerical equivalent of those and improve the objectivity of diagnosis. But in addition, AI and computational pathology allows you to measure what's unseeable, to take the raw pixel values from the images and to be able to extract new signatures of disease, new signatures of prognosis and response to therapy that we just haven't had the capacity to be able to do with the naked eye. And we reckon, and we've done a lot of work on this internally within Philips, that this will add an additional 20%, potentially add an additional 20% in terms of the efficiencies that pathology laboratories can experience using computational pathology. This spans the entire spectrum of typical images that pathologists would look at. Obviously, the majority of samples that pathologists review are H&E stains, so they're stained with this kind of purple and pink type stain. And using AI to be able to interpret those characteristics are extremely important. But it also gives you the opportunity to identify, measure, and deliver new biomarkers of disease, identifying new markers of proteins, for example, to be able to assess those in the form of clinical trials and be able to bring a wave of new markers that don't exist today to the market that rely very much on computational pathology for objective interpretation. So really exciting opportunities. And this has been well publicized in the press, where some have looked at the potential savings in a typical diagnostic laboratory through the introduction of AI. For example, looking at breast IHC or breast biopsy tumor detection, the amount of time that this could potentially save on a case-by-case basis, and the impact that that has on the associated costs. And some applications, such as the automated detection of metastases in breast sentinel lymph nodes, has a major impact. And for any pathologist that has looked at slide after slide of breast lymph node sections knows how challenging it is to be able to identify those islands of tumor cells which have a significant impact on the prognosis of the patients. And being able to do that automatically using AI, not just to screen the slides and detect those, but through integration with how the pathologists make these decisions, we've shown that AI can significantly improve the ability to detect those micrometastases and reduce the amount of effort involved in doing so. So yeah, there's been a lot of talk about this, and there's been a huge number of publications and academic research, but we haven't really seen that translation of computational pathology and AI into clinical practice. And I think there are a number of reasons for this. There are a number of systems that exist in the market for image analysis and for the development of computational pathology, but they're not embedded within the pathology workflow. So it requires context switching. If a pathologist wants to apply an algorithm, they need to take the images out of their current workflow, they need to take them to a new system, they need to load the images up. And clearly that's a frustration for pathologists in terms of the impact that that has, and their need to switch out of their current workflow and go into a different system to be able to access those technologies. Many algorithms require significant interaction, so once the algorithm is run, you need to tweak and modify the algorithm in order for that to generate results that map in with your diagnostic process. Many of the algorithms are time-consuming. They take time to run across these very large images that we have in pathology. And importantly, many of the algorithms that are available today lack proper validation, so they haven't really gone through that really rigorous assessment to ensure safety and effectiveness and efficiency in a diagnostic environment. And that's where we believe that the digitization of pathology will drive AI. It's really important that the AI we develop within this program and more generally is completely embedded seamlessly within the digital pathology workflow. So we remove that context shifting, we remove the time that it takes to run algorithms, we remove that manual interaction with algorithms, and ensure that they're embedded seamlessly within a digital pathology workflow. That, for me, is the #1 priority in driving adoption. And obviously within Philips, we've been putting a lot of effort into this. We clearly have the platform that provides that underlying workflow, that digital workflow. And being able now to embed algorithms and layer on other technologies gives us the opportunity to drive adoption of AI within pathology. We've been working extensively, investing heavily behind the development of AI in pathology. We have our own internal portfolio focusing on a range of different really challenging diagnostic problems that pathologists have, and developing AI technologies to support those. We've got teams of individuals in different parts of the world, experienced data scientists and pathologists working in many of these areas. But as an industry leader in this space, we cannot do everything. There are so many applications in pathology that can benefit from computational pathology and AI that we can't do it alone. And so partnership is extremely important for us as an industry that wants to take new applications and AI technologies to the market on our platform. And so we've been building out a partnership portfolio, if you like, working closely with others. And you'll see that whenever I come to the slides on the Innovate UK initiative. But we're working on lots of other applications with other partners in different areas to really help drive the development of AI in colon normal screening, in developing breast prognostic indices, enhancing prostatic workflow, developing new markers for immuno-oncology, and in areas such as gynae pathology and endometrial and cervical diagnostics. And this is really important to help us drive a very comprehensive portfolio of applications that we believe is going to transform pathology over the next 10 years. When we set out to think about the partnerships within the Innovate UK initiative in pathology AI, we kind of drew up this very complex illustration. But I think this is what has provided the underpinning rationale for the success of the partnerships that we've developed with others in the UK. What we wanted to do was to select and work with a number of clinical partners to provide them with the underlying digital workflow that would provide them with the capacity, the infrastructure, the technology, the scanning technology to allow them to move to 100% digital operations. We wanted to take that issue of cost for this capital equipment and infrastructure off the table to begin with. And so this was primarily our investment in the Innovate UK program, was to provide all of that technology for a number of clinical leaders in this space. We wanted to identify specific areas of R&D where there was expertise within those centers, and where we could drive the development of new AI applications in pathology, and develop a really strong synergistic research program that would help drive the partnership between academia, NHS, and industry. Part of this initiative clearly needed to develop the very large data sets that we needed to be able to develop these new applications, but also to provide a centralized UK data lake that would be available to others that are either in this space already or the emerging academic and SMEs that are beginning now to move into the space of AI development in specialties like pathology. So building that really rich data lake and making that available to the UK community to drive the development of AI was really important. And also, as part of this process, was really to drive SMEs and the development of SMEs and give them the tools necessary to be able to develop. So we were successful in 2 key applications, with Philips investing £15 million into the program to really help drive this initiative. 2 programs, one centered in Glasgow, working closely with the NHS National Services Scotland, but establishing a centre of excellence for digital pathology and AI in Scotland. And the other consortium of centres led by Coventry and Warwickshire NHS Trust, with Oxford, Belfast and Nottingham being the partners on that programme. And each of these following that type of model where we're building data lake capabilities and where we're developing specific AI technologies in partnership. Yeah, four key elements to this, and a little bit of repetition here, but the first was lab digitization. So digitizing these labs to enable them to move into a completely digital workflow, but also provide them with the technology that they needed to create AI technologies and applications. Data lake creation, the development of specific AI apps in partnership with these organizations, but importantly, working closely with the clinical centers to ensure that we had the platform and the environment and the ecosystem to validate the applications for the purposes of downstream clinical studies. We wanted to, and this wasn't just Philips leading this initiative, very much in partnership with the clinical and academic centres in each of those sites, but we wanted to make a conscious shift away from pure research activities, where very often you have small training sets. One laboratory has collected the images. You've got limited pathology input, often poorly defined claims as to what the solution is trying to achieve. Very limited validation of the technology, no qualification of the algorithms, and really no health economics evaluation. The research that goes on within the academic centres that drive these types of studies is extremely important, but we wanted to make a shift away from that to really develop IVD-ready solutions so that we had some tangible products at the end of the 3-year period that we would be able to translate into clinical practice. And this obviously requires a different mindset in terms of extensive training resources, having multiple labs contribute to the data sets. There's a lot of variation from one lab to the next, and being able to capture that variation in the training sets necessary for AI was critical. One lab is not enough to build a general AI application. So multiple labs and capturing that variation was important. Getting consensus evaluation of the tissue samples and annotations by multiple pathologists. Ensuring that the product definitions and what we were actually aiming to build was well defined. In validating the algorithms, having the UK ecosystem ready to be able to validate the algorithms across multiple different laboratories, and allowing us to undertake full clinical studies, but also health economics assessment as we went along. Within Philips, we've defined a strong set of steps that are really necessary to take an algorithm right from early stage proof of concept through to clinical delivery. A very well-defined algorithm pipeline, a development path, ensuring that we're using validated tools, a regulatory path, and a health economics path, all being undertaken within the appropriate QMS 13485 QMS system. So we wanted to adopt these processes with our partners to ensure that what we were building was going to create real value for the NHS, but be able to validate this within an NHS setting. And this requires very careful orchestration from starting the project right the way through to delivery. And this was really what we felt that Philips could bring to the table in terms of our partnerships and to drive efficiency in this process. We also wanted to ensure that the deployment of those algorithms were done in a way that could be embedded within routine diagnostic workflow. We wanted to get away from this stepping outside into a different solution system. So being able to embed it within the existing Philips workflow was important. This is a typical workflow that one would see in a diagnostic laboratory. Producing the slides, all those tissue samples on slides that incorporate all of the important diagnostic information that's used to make really important clinical decisions on patients. dispatching those to pathologists, having pathologists review those. Pathologists may then, on the basis of the content of those images, order extra slides or extra tests. Comes through the process again, and the pathologist will sign that case out with a definitive diagnosis. We've already introduced scanning into that workflow, so we can scan the images at the time of slide production and allow that dispatching, review, and sign it to happen in a digital environment, very much like you would see in a digital radiology environment. It's probably 10, 15 years ahead of pathology, but it's the same principle in mind. So scanning is now embedded within that workflow. But we also want to ensure that we embed the analysis of those images within the workflow. Not something that happens way downstream when the pathologist actually reviews the slides, but something that happens at the time of scanning. And we've worked really hard within Philips to ensure that we've got the right underlying infrastructure and technology to allow streaming of pixels into an analytics engine that allows the analysis of those pixels in real time, and the deployment of the appropriate AI algorithms, so that when the pathologist gets the sample, they're not only getting the digital image, which they can review as they would normally on a microscope, but they also get access to new information and new data that they wouldn't have had previously before, including annotations, measurements, and digital tests. Well, we can also use this AI in very clever ways, not just in terms of quantifying what's in the image and providing the pathologist with digital tests, but we can use that information to intelligently dispatch cases to the right pathologist. We can use those to order the slides in a way that the most important slides are reviewed first of all by the pathologist based on the intelligent analysis at the time of scanning. And we can also use that analysis to do that upfront ordering of extra slides and extra tests. So when the pathologist comes to review the slides, they have all the information necessary for them to make the decision. And of course, there are a variety of different apps that can be developed. I kind of characterize these in three big buckets. One are quality apps, apps that improve the quality of diagnosis by generating numerical data, quantitative classification that the pathologist can use to more reproducibly interpret tissue samples. Efficiency apps that can significantly improve the efficiency of workflow. Selecting out all of the normal prostate biopsy cases, for example, putting those to the side and having the pathologist look at those cases where there are abnormalities. And of course, there are killer apps, which we're all chasing as well. These are apps that are not just replicating what the pathologist does on a microscope today, but where we can extract new data from the images and create new signatures of disease that escape the visual interpretation, interpreting and identifying subvisual cues that just can't be picked up by the naked eye. And all of these fit within this workflow, but they need to be embedded seamlessly within a workflow to really create the impact that we believe is possible. I better watch my time here, but yes, so just thinking about the different partnerships that we formed and what they bring to the party. Obviously, from an industry perspective, bringing a technology platform that allows that seamless integration of AI into workflow was important. Certainly, we believe that we bring industry rigor to some of the experimental design and some of the research that undergoes, bringing in regulatory standards, productization, the ability to be able to accelerate those innovations to market, extremely important. Academia, really important partnership in the Innovate program. We want to be able to access the latest innovations, the latest developments in AI, and it's developing at such a rapid pace, and the potential of that technology is huge. Access to data scientists, the ability to be able to publish and present the data based on innovation is really important, and it really brings credibility as an industry provider in this space. And probably most important in this relationship is the NHS and the ability to be able to access the huge amounts of data that the NHS has available to us. As an industry provider, it's really important that we have voice of the customer. So the selection of the algorithms within the Innovate UK program wasn't selected by Philips. but was selected by the partners as areas where they felt could make a tangible difference to workflow and provide improvements in the processes that they currently used. Really important that as we begin to build these new applications in AI, we've got a real-world environment that's fully equipped to validate those algorithms in clinical studies. And obviously a platform to accelerate the rollout and adoption. And for SMEs, who are really important partners in the initiative as well, it's about giving them the opportunity to accelerate their products to market, to access the large data sets that are being collected as part of this partnership in order to innovate and create new products, giving them a route to market through close collaboration with a large commercial party like Philips. And giving them access to a more immediate revenue stream and the ability to integrate their products. So yeah, this is very much repetition, but the benefits for us and why we decided to go into this partnership was, again, access to strong academic partners for algorithm development. We had a limited budget. I'll come back to this maybe in the next slide, but people think Philips have just such a huge budget. They're a big multinational company. They can throw tons of money at this. I wish that were the case. Within Philips, there is a business unit called the Digital and Computational Pathology Business Unit. It has a limited budget. And within that business unit, we've got a limited budget to spend on R&D. So it's not endless resources, not endless money that we can spend. And we have to be very careful with how we invest that money because it is limited. And the ability to be able to, a bit like any other organization, the ability to be able to get further funding to support R&D activities is very much driven by the success of the programs that you choose. We could have invested this in Stanford, in Harvard, in Dana-Farber in the US, but we chose to invest it in the UK because of the initiative and the opportunity that this created. So yeah, for us, it was also access to very large sources of data through NHS partnerships, really being able to interact with pathology experts for selecting the right applications was important to us. It's allowed us to access the experts from the different centers and build a very strong medical and scientific advisory board. Through the academic connections that exist within the Innovate UK program, we have access to the latest innovation and accelerate the pace to market of that innovation. Access to data science is really important to drive that innovation and development. Cross-functional and cross-institutional problem solving is important. This is going to be challenging for us as an industry. And the ability to be able to problem solve around adoption, around the challenges of introducing new technologies is going to be a challenge, and we have to work together across the different organizations to resolve those problems. It was really important for us to be recognized as an industry leader, so the opportunity around Innovate UK, given our background and experience in the area, was huge. And we really wanted to show our commitment to this future of pathology by investing behind this initiative. I'm going to jump one last piece. Yeah, the other bit was around building a UK ecosystem for SMEs and developers. 2 more slides, Chris, I think. We've seen huge investment in SMEs in different parts of the world. Focusing on pathology AI, over £100 million of investment in pathology AI in the last 18 months. Huge interest from venture capitals. None of these companies are UK-based. They're all based in the US. I think we've got a real opportunity through the Innovate UK program and the initiatives that we're undertaking in partnership with the NHS and academia to build a really strong environment for the development of new SMEs in this rapidly developing space. It came with challenges. And what I wanted to do was just to highlight some of the challenges that we faced as an industry partner in engaging with the different organizations. And I'm sure if the clinical and academic partners were to put a similar list together, it may go on for 3 or 4 slides on Philips. But I think it's important to get these out surface them as areas where we need to try and find better ways of working and better ways of engagement. In our engagement with a variety of different clinical and academic sites, there was a huge variation in terms of the contracting departments and the lead negotiators and the skills that we saw within those centres. Some were really, really strong. Others were very poor and amateurish in their approach. That was our perspective. There was real anxiety from some centres about industry engagement, believing that we were trying to come in and steal all of their data and really exploit them as partners. Many of the centres didn't really understand that within Philips we had to create a really strong business case for investment. So it wasn't just having an endless purse of money that we could throw into the organisation, but that we had to justify that internally and build a very strong business case, which I had to stand up and present to the ExCo within Philips to say this is worthwhile investing in, and we're going to get a return on that investment. So really, ensuring that the partners understood that there was a business case and that was needed by industry was not always the case. Obviously, there's the need to align between commercial and academic targets, sometimes very different in terms of the successful outcomes that are expected. Ensuring ethical committee approval for the projects that underpin the industry goals. So we're entering into this with the intent of really delivering successful outcomes, but it's really important to ensure that we work together to achieve the ethical committee approvals for the various projects that we're undertaking. Yes, some of the partners found it quite challenging because as an industry partner, we really wanted to do a deep dive on the detail of the projects. How many cases we were collecting, how many slides, what the timelines were. And you know, as research organizations, and I come from that background, I think the rigor and the level of detail that we as an industry partner wanted to see was much more than what the expectations were. So it was quite challenging to align in terms of those expectations. There's a lot of uncertainties around the rights for sharing and transfer of data with industry partners. Still a lot of lack of clarity over this. Makes us nervous, makes the clinical parties nervous, but we need to find a better way of locking down that so it makes it easier for industry and NHS engagement. Understanding the regulatory landscape. Shortage of pathologists is a big problem. To develop AI applications, we need lots of annotations, we need lots of pathology input, but part of the problem in the UK is that we don't have sufficient pathologists, so we're really challenged by the problem that we're trying to solve here. And obviously in the UK, we've got a major issue in terms of data science, access to data scientists who are critical in delivering programs like this. I've already been speaking to a number of universities in the UK, including in Northern Ireland, about the shortage that we experience in data scientists, our inability to recruit successfully in this area, and what we need to do to ensure that we have a supply of really strong data scientists that have experience in industry and academia to deliver on programs like this. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks very much indeed.